I'd like to call this joint department head meeting to order. And we are going to change the order a little bit. So we're going to start with TV 79, Jim Cameron, Program Director. And then David, you wanted to go also early, right?
Well, as long as I have a meeting at 10, so I can.
We all have a meeting at 10.
Yeah, okay.
No, okay. So we'll keep the order, and if we're running behind, I'll pop you in. Okay, thanks, Jim.
Good morning. Well, thank you very much for accommodating my schedule. Nothing much to add to the written report that I've sent you. Programming continues apace. We've done a bunch of special shows highlighting the works of all of these good folks in the room here. A couple of interviews with registrars of voters, and a special video we produced with the health department talking about the important work of the sanitarians. And we did a great walking tour of the senior center to show off all the activities that are going on there. So happy to answer any questions.
I just have one, Jim.
Yes, ma'am.
On the year over year, I should know this, but what's linear play? What does that, what is that?
Linear play. I guess that means the number of people that actually clicked on the video and watched it, some portion thereof.
Okay.
The stats don't indicate how much people watched, but some of the other data does indicate people don't watch an entire meeting. You know, they watch parts of the meeting that they're interested in. And they get the gist of what they're looking for, and then they move on.
Okay. Any questions for Jim?
Mike, did you have a question?
I was wondering if you had gotten any more information over last time.
Yes.
All of our people in Southeast Asia watching.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Right.
we had a-
Pakistan and
We had a tremendous
Indonesia.
viewership in Southeast Asia. The last page of the report that I sent you shows that we still do have 4 viewers supposedly in Myanmar, and a few in Peshawar, Pakistan. But I think those are bots. I checked with the other towns, and they've had some similar, reports as well too. But the vast majority of our viewership is in Darien, Stamford, Norwalk, New York City.
So our fan base is in fact not global, is what you're trying to tell us.
It could be, unless we have somebody traveling there who really wants to catch a P&Z meeting. I don't know, maybe that's what that is as well too.
Jim, where are you on equipment for televising meetings in the auditorium and sort of link-ups to Zoom? I thought there were going to be some investments to try to make all of that easier, where you could have both.
Well, there is some ARPA money that we're hoping
Okay.
to put forward to that good effort as well too.
To answer
Kate
your
can speak
question,
to the RFP, I think.
the bid is being advertised this week with bid responses due in 4 weeks. And then we'll see where we are.
Any other
That can't
questions?
happen soon enough.
Yeah.
The PA system in there, I'm just afraid is going to die in the middle of a meeting. So Kate's done a great job of working with the tech team, and they're going to administer install whoever it is that we choose. So that'll be fabulous, state of the art.
Terrific, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Before I go,
Yes.
let me be the first, but certainly not the last, to say thank you so much for your leadership in the past couple of years as the first Selectwoman. To say that I knew you when you were just a member of the RTM, and the huge shoes that you had to fill, and you filled them so ably. It has been a pleasure working with you, and I wish you much success further down the line. Thank you. Excuse me.
Okay, next we have Tony Homicki, our assessor.
Good morning. The highlight of my report is part of the 5-year cycle called revaluation. We are updating all the town property values assessments for October 1 of 23. We've had contracted after going out to bid a year and a half ago. the same company that we used 5 years ago called Tyler Technologies. They have 3 certified appraisers in place. They have anywhere from 5 to 7 technicians off-site migrating the GIS system that's maintained. We use OpenGov. We have appraisal software, mass appraisal software system. It's all certified by the state of Connecticut, sort of with statistical requirements that are to be filed with the state in January and February. So there's quite a little bit of compliance that comes into play in concert with the 3 of us in the assessor's office that are all certified assessors. We have 3 of us, which is very unusual. We've inspected all the properties in town 3 times already. First with photographs being done by each and every home. The second was using an oblique software system. It's aerial photography that occurs twice, in March and just recently in October 1. It allows us to look at a 36-degree view of each and every property with a measuring tool to an inch. I'd like to work with the other departments if other departments would like to use this in future years, but it's a very powerful system in place. We did, as I said, 7,300 images. We've inspected and reviewed utilizing MLS and physical visits of 575 actual sales over the last 18 months. We went back into the database for almost 3 years, making sure that we are valuing properties properly. We intend to have notices mailed to all taxpayers by the 3rd week of November, where the Tyler Technologies team will be coordinating any type of questions, concerns, and hearings. It's called an informal hearing process, as values have changed in the last 5 years. And the finalization where I accept the values after my oversight will occur during the month of January. So there's a lot of players involved, a lot of people. I can't thank the work that Jeremy and the town building department are doing in planning and zoning with OpenGov. That software system allows them to use the eyes from the building department on while they're inspecting the property and what dates and time, what the status of each work in progress, construction in progress is ongoing. Same way with the town clerk's office. We have our sales up to date within a week. The transfers and having online data from the town clerk's office is also very helpful. That's a brief 5-minute overview of an ongoing project that's really been ongoing for 3 to 4 years. So I welcome any questions that you might have.
Tony, on the informal review, is that Monday through Thursday? Because we're closed.
We will have it right through the weekend if needed.
Okay.
It depends on the phone calls that we have. And past revaluations, when we weren't allowed to put things online, we had a lot of hearings. This one,
No, I'm talking about the informal with Tyler for those 2 weeks, November.
Yeah, it'll go further than 2 weeks if needed.
It will, okay.
So, yeah, it will probably include Saturdays.
And residents will make an appointment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have all that online in the assessor section of the website. And we're also using GIS to show all the photographs and images of each and every sale that occurred
Right.
over the last year and a half.
So can you talk a little bit about privacy and the
The freedom of information and privacy issues are really about the income capitalization methods that we use and some of the confidential data for the commercial property owners, meaning the lease arrangements between tenant and landlord. Privacy issues are limited, I think, on what our database will share with the features of each and every house. Those are online already. They've been online for almost 15 years. So if you wanted to know the bedroom count, bathroom count, most of the multiple listing data is extracted from the assessor's database. It's in. We also have released once a year all of our data on a 26-column Excel spreadsheet to what used to be known as the commercial bankers and tradesmen. So that's something all 169 towns do. So it's a limited amount of data that's under FOI, and it's pretty much the commercial income and expense statements that come onto disclosure between tenant and landlord.
okay.
Yep.
Any questions?
No, thank you for your work.
So when you talk about reviews, so this is so that residents can come in and have their valuation explained to them. How does that contrast with, say, in a formal appeal process if I disagree with my assessment? And what's the timing of that process?
Okay, yeah, exactly. I finished the grand list and I accept final values the last day in January. By February 15th, February 20th, the taxpayers have a formal process through the Board of Assessment Appeals. It's a 3-member board that we have. We're working on now possibly bringing in 2 more alternates to have 5 total. That process will be a formal sign-up process with a date and time assigned to each taxpayer. They would come in person or have a representative assist them or represent them. Those hearings would take place in March. And by the end of March, we finalize the grand list. I pride myself on never having extensions. We could have a 30-day extension if needed, but I don't like to encroach on the budget process. We try to get the job on time and fair equity across the board. But those hearings would take place as a formal Board of Assessment Appeals process during the month of March. And then if the taxpayer is not in agreement with those decisions at that time, there's a 60-day period from that date of appeal for them to file with the Superior Court.
Got it. So just to be clear, anybody who comes in for this review session that you were just talking about, that really is to have the valuation explained as opposed to being a forum to appeal that
Exactly.
valuation.
Yeah.
So Tony, do the alternates vote? Do they have a vote?
The alternates would have a vote
They would,
just to establish a quorum. But again, we're researching that a little bit further right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Tony? Okay, thanks, Tony, I know you've been really busy.
Okay, yes.
Okay, next we have the Director of Darien Emergency Medical Services, Joe Larchevek, sorry.
Good morning. I only have one thing to add to my report. It's a shameless plug for our fall fundraiser, The Haunted House, October 29th, 1:30 to 3:30. 3 levels of scariness. So we'll also have hands-only CPR being taught there as well, and it's a fun event, so please come. And with that, I'll take any questions. Yes, sir.
Just on the community training where it's 101 total community members trained, is that, so those courses, no, they're not any repeaters? So like, for instance, someone might have taken their BLS renewal and also taken a heart saver, or is that 101 volunteers separately?
101 separate, so people will come in to renew their CPR, people will come in to take heart savers, more community-oriented layperson training, and one of the things we've really tried to do this year, kind of coming off the tails of the pandemic, is get people back in the building and doing community training, first aid and CPR, so we're happy to engage in that again after many years.
Yeah. We've heard demand for that out in the public, so
Good.
thank you. Hey, Joe, can you talk to your average response time? Is that typical, 6 minutes?
Sure. So for the period that I reported on, our average lights and sirens response time is 6 minutes, which is very good in a community, especially a suburban community of our size. The American Heart Association years ago sort of set the standard to have an ambulance on site in 8 minutes or less. A lot of communities have volunteer staffing shortages. A lot of communities, who have volunteer agencies, the responders have to come from home or their place of employment. Oftentimes it's hard to get them on the road in 8 minutes. So I'm very proud that, we staff 2 ambulances 24 hours a day. We have a 3rd one on reserve, and we're able to get to these calls in a short period of time.
Any other questions for Joe? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, next we have our Emergency Management Director, Mark McEwen.
Morning, everyone. Couple highlights. One was the Darien Library Emergency Preparedness meeting we had October 5th. It was a success. It was unfortunately a little short. The library closed at 9, and we probably could have went for an easy another hour. The residents that did attend thanked me and the group. I'd like to say keep thanking us, because they keep telling us in the public when I see them that it was great. So it was a good opportunity. A little shameless plug. There's another one on Wednesday night, tomorrow night at Westport Library. It's the same group of folks. Westport's EM emergency management personnel in the state of Connecticut, as well as the Voices and STAR. We have a tabletop exercise tomorrow for the state. It's a statewide exercise. We're doing it a little differently this year. We're going to have a regional exercise alongside of the statewide exercise. So we're getting together in New Canaan Library tomorrow for some of our emergency management team, and the rest will do it from their offices. And lastly, we worked on an MOU with the state of Connecticut to get the 911 database so that we can update our code red system. And I am in the midst of trying to get that finalized so that we can get updated information. But I would urge everyone to sign up for code red. We're at that time of year where things do happen and the tropics are still active. Any questions?
I just have one, Mark. Where are we on the Crimmins? You have, yeah,
Crimmins Road. The project is completed.
right?
The paperwork is not. I met with the state and FEMA about 2 weeks ago, and FEMA is challenging, if you will, some of the paperwork, and it's not from us. The state of Connecticut has not turned over any paperwork that I submitted to the state. So FEMA's basically looking at the project as it never started and it's not done. So they went out to the site. I met John that morning. They reviewed the site. They took photographs. We're done in all manners. It's just a matter of the state getting everything accomplished. One thing came up in that discussion, and the deed that we utilized happened to be an older deed, and they provided a new copy and they want it updated. It really is just a paper shuffling exercise in my eyes. They're sticking to language that in my eyes doesn't change anything. It still says it has to be open deeded, open property, etc.
So to be clear, we've not been paid until this.
We have been paid.
We have been paid?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
And as a matter of fact, we're due approximately $4,000 more. The state has held on to a little bit of money, so we're almost there with the money. It's just finalizing the paperwork. They call it closing it out, so we're trying to close it out.
I know there's been a lot of turnover at the state level for employees. Are you working with the same people?
No.
You're not, okay.
So the grants administrator that I was working with has been promoted, and they put someone new in charge, and she came in at the very end of the project after I had already submitted all the paperwork. So she's trying to get caught up to what we submitted earlier. Thank God I keep everything, so I submitted it all over again. So we're in pretty good shape. It's just a matter of the state and FEMA getting everything ironed out.
Okay.
And one thing I did want to mention, I guess, is that we had 3 grant applicants for hazard mitigation, mitigation activities in town, 2 elevations and 1 acquisition. And the state promised that early this fall we would see applications again. They would open up the grant process. That has not occurred, and that's not occurring because of the federal budget issues. So the state won't release the grants for our application purposes until that gets ironed out. And we do have 3 residents that are in need.
These are the 3 that went through the Dewberry
Correct.
process? Okay. Any other questions for Mark? No? Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, next we have our finance director, Jen Chinesky.
Good morning. Main things we're working on in my office, the audit is underway. We're just kicking off the budget development process. The departments are working on their requests. And one thing that's come up as a priority is some check fraud and some mitigation for that. So we're working with M&T and some additional fraud prevention on our accounts, as well as looking at a JP Morgan virtual credit card program to implement e-payables. And that's it. So if there's any questions on the report, I have nothing else to add to that.
I was just curious, because I saw that in your report. What kind of fraud are we talking about?
Interception of checks that are going through the mail, and there's kind of a new development for back of check fraud, where if a teller isn't being diligent, someone can just endorse it with a scribble and cash it under somebody else's name. And so Positive Pay doesn't catch that because that's looking at the front of the check. So we're trying to minimize the number of checks that we're writing by moving to e-payables, which we wanted to do as more of an efficiency type of thing, but it's bumped up the priority list because of fraud prevention.
Thank you.
Is your new part-time person helping with that?
She's not helping with that per se, but because she's able to take some workload off of the accounts payable, we're able to shift some things around, which is freeing up some time. And more will be freed up as our new part-timer gets up to speed.
Right, it seems like a priority.
When did they start? October 2nd.
Any other questions for Chad?
No, thank you, Jim.
A couple of things. What was the general guidance that you gave to the departments for their budget, if you had to just sort of give headlines for that?
That would come from the town administrator. We haven't had a formal kickoff with them yet. We've just opened up their budget development forms and window access, but when we have a department head offsite, we'll be talking a little bit more about how they should be developing those.
Okay, and then the June 30th fund balance was north of $30 million, and that's, what percentage of that is average of annual revenue is that, or how far away are we from the 12%?
It's about 18% of our fiscal '24 revenues, budgeted revenues, and about 10 million more than the 12% minimum fund balance.
Okay. And last question, any trends worth highlighting in year-to-date financials for this fiscal year?
Most everything's tracking as expected. One area that's been a hot topic for the last 2 years is investment income. Due to some timing with some people being out, we don't have the September interest booked, but through August, we had $805,000 of interest. It won't continue at that same level because we get a lot of funds in July, and then we draw it down until the next tax collection purposes. So we expect that to be less in the coming months, but the budget of 1.7, we've collected 800,000 through August.
2 months of the fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay. Well, better over budget than under budget.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, next we have Bobby Bush, our fire marshal.
Morning, all. Just a couple of highlights. We are fully staffed in the office. Our newest full-time employee, Sean Murphy, moved from part-time to full-time last in August. And our other part-time position was filled by James Doherty, who's also a career firefighter in Stanford. Oxford School project is pretty much done. We've got some punch list stuff to wrap up on the project. The other two big jobs moving along quite well. Other than that, I have nothing further to add. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Bobby, I have one. You assisted in a fire drill for Henkel employees. Is that a Stanford-based?
No, that is the former Zotos building. They're
Okay.
Henkel Zotos.
Okay,
Henkel now owns Zotos.
okay. So it is in Darien?
Yes.
Okay.
Two quick questions. On the third page, you've got Assistant Fire Marshal spending about 45% of his time on emergency management during the quarter. Any trend changes in how people are spending their time? In other words, are you having to spend more or less time in a particular area that's kind of point in time?
So this was probably the first time we've seen a little bit of a reduction in Mark's time from emergency management and more time in fire marshal duties
Okay,
in quite some time.
that's good. That's it for me.
Any other questions? Thanks, Bobby.
Okay.
Next, we have Director of our Health Department, David Knopf.
Good morning, everybody. I have no updates and nothing further to add, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
The radon kits, do you have a time schedule, time frame?
I have no idea when they're coming in, but they usually will be sometime in November.
Okay,
January's Radon Awareness Month, and that's when the big push is.
okay.
But, we asked for more than we gave out last year because there was quite a demand last year, so. But I never know ahead of time when or how many.
Right. And the ceasing of the flu shots, can you talk about that a little bit? What was your thinking? The ending of giving out flu shots?
Well, we've been doing it for a number of, forever.
Right.
And what we've seen is a decline in the demand, number one, and number two, there's proliferation of places where people can get it any day, any time. And so when we were offering clinics, we would offer clinics for a few hours, maybe once a week or once every other week. So it was really spotty. And, it just became, actually, we were losing money several years in a row. So we had an account that we were carrying to the point where we were actually starting to run a negative balance because we were giving town employees and part-time people who didn't have insurance coverage free shots. So, and we're also limited to the insurance carriers that we can honor. So last year, for example, at Vote and Vax, we had a clinic outside of the voting area, and a lot of people came in, but nobody wanted to get a vaccine once they heard they had to pay $40, even though we were going to give a receipt. So it just became, we were losing money and our staff time wasn't worth it. We did not give a single vaccine last year on Vote and Vax. That's the first time ever. We used to give 60, 70, 80, or over 100 vaccinations at that time. But the demand just isn't there for us.
Okay, and then I'm sure this is in here somewhere, but COVID test kits. So if somebody wants a COVID test kit in town, can they call the health department?
We have quite a few kits.
Okay.
Yes, free COVID test kits. Plus, there's you can still send away and get free ones online through Postal Service. That information's on our website.
Your report has staffing challenge written all over it. I see your resignation of Lori Romick, and then just the challenge of dealing with the more labor-intensive inspection process for restaurants that's been prescribed. Could you just talk a little bit about your staffing levels and staffing adequacy and kind of what your general view is for next steps?
We still haven't replaced the person who left, who is our primary plan review specialist. We happen to be in a fortunate situation at the moment because we're in between places that are kind of done and new startups. So that push for plan reviews isn't as bad as it has been.
But it's still David's fault, is that what
But
you're
it
saying?
is going to come back.
Oh, he's here. Hi. It's here.
It's going to come
Didn't
back.
see you there.
We have a lot of empty space where there's going to be a lot of new places coming in, both downtown and up in Norotan. So we're hoping to get somebody soon. We did interview someone. We really had limited response to the ad. So we're going to try again, and hopefully we can get some more interest in filling that position. But right now, we're treading water. And it's a dual thing, it's not only is there all this new development, but again, it's this process of the new inspection program that we have to go through that is much more time consuming. So we're getting hit from two ends.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have our Director of Human Resources, Susan Barstow. Yeah.
Good morning. I don't really have much to add to my report either. We have done a lot of recruitment over the last quarter, so I'm happy to say there aren't a lot of openings right now. We do still have the health sanitarian that we're recruiting for, as well as the part-time activities assistant at the senior center, which we're going to be interviewing for soon. But other than that, we're pretty caught up on our open positions, so that's good. Any questions about anything else in the report?
Susan, I have one on the critical. So that's a screening for the dispatcher. Is that the police department finds a candidate and then sends them, or are we getting candidates from?
No, so typically somebody would apply through Police app.
Okay.
Which is an app that we've been using now. That includes a written test as well as an application. And then once they pass the written test with a certain score, then we would administer the critical for them. And they would do the critical, which is more of a skills-based screening. It makes sure people can multitask and take good notes and do all the things you need to be able to do to be a dispatcher. And then so with the score from the written test and the score from the critical, then we would interview after that if they pass those 2 levels.
Okay.
So it's giving us an added, we've been having some, as I said in there, having some issues with successfully finding dispatch candidates. It's a really tricky job, and you have to have a really unique set of skills to be able to do it. And so critical is something that would evaluate, those skills that are not just the written ones.
So are we having a problem finding people in the first place, or we're
No,
having a
people
problem
are applying,
retaining?
but they're just,
We're not retaining because maybe they don't have the skill set, and that's what this will address? Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
it also gives the candidate a good idea, I think, of what the job's going to entail. Because a lot of times we get applicants that have no experience in dispatching at all, which doesn't mean that they won't be great dispatchers, but critical will not only let us know if they have the skill set, it kind of gives them a little bit of a glimpse of what the job's actually going to be like, and they might take the test and go, that's not for me or something.
Right.
Because sometimes that's what it is too. It's just that the job's not quite what they thought it was going to be.
I hope this helps us.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, just, I know you guys put a ton of effort into this compensation study, working with Kate and all that, and a fine piece of work, so thank you for that. I know that was not easy.
Thank
It's really
you.
good.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Susan.
Thanks.
Okay, Director of Human Services, Ally Ramstack.
Good morning. I do have something to add. I forgot to mention that Paula Sutliff, the public health nurse, and I did hold another mental health first aid training. Thanks again, Joe, for letting us do these at Post 53. We do have one more coming up in November on the 8th and the 9th, and that's open to anyone, again, in the Darien community or anyone who serves the Darien community. And on Saturday, this Saturday, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is hosting their Out of Darkness walk, rain or shine. And last year, we had a huge turnout from Darien, and hopefully we do again this year, although I think the homecoming game is at 1 o'clock, so I don't know if that's going to interfere with the kids, but that's about it. If you have any questions.
I have one question on the back to school with the Stop and Shop gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where the 2,000 expenditure came from?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we thought with the extra ARPA money, it'd be nice to give the family some extra food cards to start the year off.
Okay. Hey, Ally, do we need? This is just a plug for the closet. Do we need anything for the medical closet?
No, actually, we
We're
have
good?
so much stuff
Okay.
that actually Wheel It Forward in Stamford just took some donations. Like if we get too many walkers or something like that, then we have a place in Stamford that will come and pick them up. Actually, I think it was Caldwell in Stamford too, but we get lots of donations, but we
Right.
only have so much space.
Right. Where do we store those?
Downstairs in our home goods closet.
Okay.
So we just had a little clean out last week because sometimes it gets a little overcrowded. But yeah, the demand just keeps going up and up, which is wonderful. But people also like to get rid of the stuff, so that's why
Right.
get a little crowded down there.
Yeah.
Hi, Ally.
Hey, Sarah.
First of all, thank you for doing what you're doing. I am curious if we have plans to spend some of the lovely ARPA funds for the mental health needs, and then particularly for the food insecurity. I feel like
Well, so Jen and Kate and I spoke about the food insecurity and about person to person and about filling in the blanks.
Yes, I had
and
heard a rumor. That's why I was just trying to understand if we had.
it hasn't come to fruition, but
Right.
we're in talks about how to go about that.
Okay.
I know Jen could talk. It's very the tracking is very.
There's certain challenges with the grant if we were to have a sub-grantee.
Right.
And we need to determine if we can actually manage those
Understood.
challenges.
So hopefully soon. And then the mental health stuff, we're partnering more with other local agencies. So for instance, this Hope Day that I mentioned is coming up in November. So the ARPA funds are helping, they actually are funding it. And that's going to be, they've done it in Greenwich and Stamford, and they've had great success. So as local community mental health providers will have tables there. There's going to be live entertainment. Heights Pizza's donating pizza. So we're going to continue to try to do more programming and supporting. We did another program at the depot. It's called Mastering Mindful Mindsets, and they had a great turnout. And they had 45 middle school kids, mostly boys. And Amy Daniels, the director, said, it was a huge success. So we funded that also. So we're trying to partner more with the other. So there's so much going on out there. So we wanted, and this is something we're going to talk about at our mental health task force next week.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Okay, next we have our Director of IT, Jeff Adams. Oh, George, you're, okay.
Sorry, guys. Jeff says his remarks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I guess everything's going well with our installations of our network equipment here in the building and throughout the police department. And the big deal is we have a new IT person at our police PD, and he's really making the transformation of our new software away from our old one, currently over there, really smooth. And I think they're going to start testing very soon. Nothing further to add if you guys have any questions.
Hey, George, what do we do when we're replacing the computers? What do we do with the computers that we're removing?
The ones I'm taking out, because they're still very good.
Right.
So I'm replacing a lot of the ones that I had put in place in our public areas and throughout the building and throughout the senior center.
Okay.
So I'm making sure that the older ones are getting replaced. I'm not getting rid of them because a lot of them are still very good. Others that are just not, they're helpless, I just get rid of them.
Okay, but when we can, we repurpose.
There's no doubt about it, yes. I always try to upgrade. I'll bastardize parts and put things to upgrade other machines and stuff like that.
Okay. Any questions for George?
Thank you.
Which multi-factor authentication are you using? What program or service do you use?
The MAF that we're using,
Yes.
it's a Windows-based one.
Windows-based, okay.
Yes. And then all it does is it kind of, in this case, it gives you a choice initially where you can either put in your cell number, so it'll send a text to your cell number, or it'll give you a call, and the call it'll give you the actual number that you need.
And that's every time you log in, or is it every 60 days?
I know that within the offices, because of Outlook, I think because it's cached and it's stayed, it'll probably ask, and I'm still monitoring somebody who's got it that I put in a couple weeks ago. But if you're outside and you're logging in with the internet, it will ask you all the time.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, George.
You got it.
Thanks for filling in. Jeremy Ginsberg, Director of Land Use.
Good morning, everyone. As Bob Bush mentioned earlier, a lot of time and effort's been spent the past quarter working on getting the tenants settled in at Federal Realty Project Darien Commons. As you can see from the report, Hammer and Nails Grooming, Sur La Table, Salt and Sweat, and most recently, a few days ago, Gregory's Coffee is opened. I think we still have a few more commercial tenants. The residential portion's complete. So once the commercial is complete, probably next month or November, and next month is November, that project will be fully complete.
Hey, Jeremy, where's the sushi place on Tokenique Road? Where is that? 35 Tokenique?
35, it is in the former Hitchcock Munson.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Jeremy?
I saw where you mentioned that this was the quietest September in 38 years. Anything, is that a trend or anything you attribute to that?
I think the best I can attribute it to is the fact that there's not a lot of inventory in the real estates. People are just staying where they are. Usually what we see is when people purchase a house, they don't like it exactly the way it is, so they put money into it either before they move in or right after they move in. So we're not seeing as much in terms of transfers, so I think that's part of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks,
Thank you all.
Jeremy. Okay. Director of Park and Rec, Pam Geary.
Good morning. The only thing I'd like to add to my report is that as of this report, the project at Big Lawn, the cement patio, was all dug up in those pictures, but it is 99.9% finished. I went there yesterday, it looks gorgeous. So that should be wrapped up this week. And if you have any other further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Pam, real quickly, the pictures of the solar aerator, are these pictures after the previous pictures of what looked like a Tilly Pond and Cherry Lawn Pond?
After.
So it's made a tremendous difference already in the algae.
It has made a difference.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
I would say, though, that with the cooler weather, that also helped.
Well, we had a lot of rain too in September, so yeah.
That did help.
Okay.
And I will add that I had, after those pictures, I did have the water tested at both Tilly and Cherry. And it came back that Tilly had the blue-green algae, which is harmful for swimming, and which people don't swim in there anyway, but, and it would clear out. It's cleared out now. But Cherry Lawn was tested, and even though it looked that way, it did not have the harmful algae in it.
But we have lost fish and other wildlife in the pond at Cherry Lawn, correct?
At Cherry Lawn?
Yeah.
I have seen that, but it is not a toxic blue-green algae.
Okay.
Have you established the working group yet for pickleball courts?
We have not.
Is there a reason for that? We talked about that in July.
I believe the gentleman who's going to take up that project has not gotten a group together yet. So I think they're just a little behind the gun. They're working on it. So I expect to hear some news tomorrow night on that. I think he tried to establish a meeting and didn't quite understand that it has to be a public meeting. And when he was trying to rally some people together. So I think he better understands the process now, and we'll find out more tomorrow.
Hey, Pam, on watering, I see that we're doing a lot of watering over at Pear Tree.
Well, the watering has stopped.
Good.
We've turned that off because we've had plenty of rain, but we
Right.
did water tremendously over the summer when there was a drought.
Right.
Right. It's
That's
hard to
my
even say we
point.
had a drought because it's been raining so much,
Yeah.
but we wanted to stay on top of it. The plantings got put in later than we desired, so therefore we needed to make sure that they did not,
All right.
that they made it.
Okay, because 14 times a week is, when we're asking our residents, so.
Oh, right.
So talk to us about, I'm glad to see some sort of irrigation system there, and I thank Public Works for helping on that.
Yes.
Talk about irrigation over at Highland. I know people have asked, just explain why that's not feasible.
I don't know that it's not feasible, it's just very, very expensive. So we had the job quoted, I believe it came in around $30,000. Because the two areas are so far apart, there is a water source there, but in order to put irrigation on both sides of that property would be, and I'm guesstimating that it was 30,000. I would have to double check that number.
Okay. So where else do we do a lot of irrigation with a watering truck? Where else do we go?
We're at Highland, we're at Tilly, we're at Cherry Lawn, where we stop at Pear Tree because there's the part that's not irrigated, there's more plantings over near the bathhouse. Those are the major areas.
Okay.
Just following up on Mike's question about pickleball, I get a lot of questions about that too. And so, to his point, we kind of talked about this in July. I think it would be valuable to put a bigger spotlight on all this. So at the next Board of Selectmen meeting, we ought to consider adding this to an agenda. So we have an update that says, here's exactly where we are on pickleball courts, how many we have, what's the utilization, what's the process for signing up, this commission or committee that's going to look at that, what's their charge, when is that going to be formed, and kind of what are the general objectives for that commission, what's their charter. And just to kind of go through that in some detail, again, folks are asking a lot about this, and I think we should be a lot more visibly responsive to those requests and just say, look, this is what we got, and this is what we're working on, and to keep the public a lot better informed on that, and let's move this along. I don't think we should wait much longer.
I think, Pam, your commission is the one who's got to form the working group, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I think maybe this is a message you get back to them in the meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. I can tell you publicly right now that we have, we took one tennis court and transformed it into 4 pickleball courts. That's where we are today. We had the tennis courts, the 3 tennis courts, we had pickleball lines placed on those 4 to 5 years ago. The commission opted to, through public meetings, not to reline them when we redid the courts. And as you said, this committee would be formed to try to locate another area that could be possible for additional pickleball courts. But I've also talked to lots of other people about, making sure we're keeping an eye on the courts that were just redone too. What is the use? I don't think that it's a done deal. I think in maybe a year we can come back together and say, what is the use of tennis? Is there a need to, can we put pickleball lines on a few of the courts, and would that be helpful? So I think it's going to be a year of really getting some additional data.
Just so I understand, originally the department, your department had planned for and recommended the multi-lining those lower courts. And then the commission decided to not do it. Is that
correct?
Okay.
I mean, I think when they look back, they didn't ever see a formal vote on placing the pickleball lines on the tennis court. And we had discussions about it, but I don't think we could verify and confirm there was an official vote on it. But we had Sean Shea, who came to the commission 4 or 5 years ago, requesting pickleball lines to be put on the courts, and we moved forward with that.
Thanks, Pam. Any other questions for Pam? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, next we have Captain Marin for the police department.
Good morning, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to stand in for the chief. He's currently away at the International Association of Chiefs of Police Convention in San Diego, so he has me stepping in. I trust that you'll find our report comprehensive and accurate. I'd like to thank Lieutenant Derek Mulcahy for his work that he put towards that. Only a couple things to add. This is the first full quarter where our traffic division has been re-implemented, and as you can see in the report, our traffic stops between the patrol division and traffic division went from 547 previous quarter to 903, so it's having quite the impact. And I can't speak to whether that's actually lowering our crashes in town. It's only slightly lower this quarter, but you have to remember most of our traffic crashes are in parking lots, and we do not take proactive traffic measurement or traffic enforcement measures in the parking lots. Happy to say that it's basically the first time in my career that we're up to full strength, staffing-wise. We have 1 still left in the police academy and 2 on in-field training programs. And lastly, just kind of a PSA, we continue to have a problem with the car burglaries. I'd like to remind residents to not engage if they see intruders on their properties or crimes being committed on their properties, to call us, use the 911 system, and do not engage. We've had a resident that did engage, a car burglary suspect recently. Thankfully, it all worked out, but as an example, just this past week, or maybe 2 weeks now, I think it was either North Haven or North Branford, a resident tried to engage one of the car burglary suspects and they shot at him. So we know that a lot of these suspects are armed. We continue to remind residents to be vigilant and lock in their cars and securing their property, and call us when they need us. I don't think I have anything else. Happy to answer questions.
Hey, Captain, can you speak a little bit to the distracted larceny that we've seen a couple instances?
Yeah, clearly Darien's not insulated to that problem. We're seeing it at the grocery stores. We've even seen it downtown on a sidewalk, but it's...
Can you explain to the public?
A distraction larceny is where someone's looking to, not forcibly, but unknowingly remove a subject's wallet or valuables off their person or in their shopping cart. It happens a lot in the grocery stores where someone will come up and ask, hey, can you reach an item for me? And when someone goes to reach it, someone else will come, a secondary suspect will come in and remove a purse or a wallet, and they're targeting credit cards and cash. We did unfortunately have it on the street level in front of where the Goose Restaurant is. Someone was distracted on a sidewalk, and I think it was a tandem team that, I'm not sure exactly of the details of what the content of the conversation that was had, but it was enough that someone was able to remove some valuables off of the person themselves. We've seen it happen at Stop and Shop and Goodwife Shopping Center, where people get bumped into, and next thing they know, they're missing their wallet. We've seen people have their ATM cards taken while they're checking out in the self-checkout. So we just, again, ask everybody to be aware of their surroundings and know that this is a problem. It's not targeting Darien per se. It does happen all over, but it is happening here as well.
So just be more aware is what we're telling people.
Yeah. Basically, these suspects are preying on our residents and these shoppers' goodwill, so to speak, asking them for advice, asking them to read labels on food items, and while they're doing that, a secondary suspect is targeting their carts where the purses are left behind.
So what I found really alarming were the car thefts during the day at 4 o'clock or at 6 o'clock, and the people were home.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say this strong enough. Let's give our police something else to worry about, to work on. Lock your cars and take your keys inside with you. And if you have a garage, put your car in the garage and shut the door.
I'll just add that I happened to be at a conference this week and ran into an old police academy classmate of mine up in Meriden. And he said several of the stolen cars that are coming from Fairfield County end up in his jurisdiction. And they've had several incidents where police cars have been destroyed through car chases and however the incidents unfold, and they're running out of police cars because officers are being injured and they're trying to attempt to apprehend these individuals in the stolen cars, and unfortunately a lot of them are coming from Fairfield County, Darien included.
Yeah, so chain reaction.
Yeah.
So we really need to do better on this. We really do as a community.
On these car vehicle thefts, is it true that the vast majority, if not all of them, are in fact unlocked cars with keys in them, or are you seeing cars being broken into that are locked and being stolen?
Very few are broken into. I would say almost every single one of them is an unlocked vehicle that has a fob stashed somewhere in the vehicle itself. It's just because the nature of the technology now with most of the cars, newer cars, are fob-based ignition systems, and it's just more convenient for people to leave the fob behind than have to worry about keeping it in a pocket or a purse. But very few are broken into. The only vehicles that we see forcible entry are those who are at Cherry Lawn Park or in the grocery store or at the YMCA, and they're targeting purses that are left behind and that are clearly visible to these crews. That's what they're there for. They go to prey on those individuals who would otherwise not be securing their valuables and bringing them with them.
So Captain, my last question on this. I read in California that, I just picked it up somewhere, this whole idea of using your key fob to lock your car and somebody taking the encryption and then being able to enter your car. Do we see that at all here?
I have not heard of that happening here.
Okay.
I'm sure that there's a way to do that, but I have not heard
We haven't
that
seen it
happening
here.
here.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Quick question. I understand that Apple has instituted new technology where there's crash detection on Apple phones. And I had this experience because my daughter left her phone on the back of my car. It fell off as I was driving, and 5 minutes later, a Darien police officer was driving down my road looking to see where this crash was. Are you finding an uptick in this where you have, Apple phones that are, falling all over the place and you're getting false calls because...
I haven't seen we haven't heard of an uptick in the Apple per se, but there are these different platforms that do have these services that will call or use our 911 system to report such. I think even our watches do have that. They have fall detection. But I have heard in the last few months us responding to, there's the OnStar-based systems, and Mercedes has their own system. But I haven't heard Apple specifically, but I can get back to you on that. Chip maybe kind of take.
I mean, it was great. He showed up
Yeah.
and I was like, where's the phone? Oh, it's in the middle of Middlesex Road. So, interesting.
Always looking out, right?
Great response. Any other questions for Captain?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, next we have Director of Public Works, Ed Gentile.
Good morning. You have my report in front of you. There are no changes, but before we get into questions, I'd like to just say something on behalf of the Department of Public Works. So with the changes that are about to come in for the next couple of weeks, the Department of Public Works would like to thank the current First Selectman for her dedication, for the hard work that you've done over the last 2 years. Being First Selectman is not an easy job. You jumped right in and you took charge. And as we look forward to the future with anticipation, I'd like to thank you for and show you our appreciation for your guidance and your never-ending support over the last 2 years. Many thanks.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, got that out of the way.
Okay, I'm good now?
You're good. You're good.
If there's any questions, the report's a little bit lengthier this month. I did have to trim it down even more. Darren is really, really good at putting it together, but I think it's full of really good information. And if you have any questions.
Just one, do we have an estimated end date for the railroad station parking lot project? So that if someone were to ask, I can say Q1 in 24. The parking,
The Heights.
lot,
The Heights?
or the Heights, yeah.
They gave us a 6 to 8 week window
Okay.
when they started. Add a couple weeks.
Okay.
Contractors are
So maybe
thin on
by
schedule
Christmas.
and they like to get going, but I'm thinking before Christmas time, we
Great.
should be paving before the plant's closed. That is our target.
Right, of course. They close mid-December, right, thank you.
And I have a couple of questions. Very happy to see the FEMA funding request for Gorham's. Any update on that?
Yeah, we're at what they call the final sign-off portion. This is generally where you go back and check all the information that you've given them and see if they've actually put it in the right place and used the right information. And of course, with all the data we gave them, there is some changes that we have to go back and make. So over the last week, we've been meeting with our consultant to try to get that in line. Once that's signed off, they call it a DDD. Once that's all signed off, there's just a few signatures and then we should be able to be ready to go. Again, I'm thinking that's probably going to take a month or two in the process. So hopefully by the beginning of the year, we should have the sign off from FEMA.
Really appreciate you pursuing that.
It's been a team effort. Mark's been helping out, Darren, myself. It's just a lot of meetings. They have, as Mark has mentioned, the turnover.
Right.
Every 3 to 6 months, you have a new director to work with, a new supervisor to work with. They're good people. They know what they're doing. It's just getting them up to speed and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Because that stops FEMA funding in its tracks very quickly.
Okay. So we had the three big studies. We had Saltbox, Bailey, and Grove. And on Bailey, we weren't able to, we didn't see a path forward on the culvert problem. But where are we with DOT and Eversource on clearing out some of the debris in that area?
There were a couple email exchanges last week and actually the beginning of this week with DOT and some of the neighbors. One of the neighbors over there is very vigilant in keeping up on top of this. There's 3 property owners over there. One is a Darien resident, the other 2 are Eversource and DOT. When we did notify them, all of them responded. The majority of the work and issues are on Eversource and DOT property because of the tree clearing that had been done. So they do say they will go back and clean it all up. I just haven't seen a quicker response and hoping for one soon.
Okay. And talk to us about the transfer fees. And it sounds like we increased our tipping fees, but it also sounds like, and this shouldn't work in, an economic model, but we have more demand. Is that right? So we raised our fees, but we have more demand.
What had happened back in 2022, a lot of the local facilities were being maxed out. Bridgeport wasn't taking any new customers. City Carding was closing at noontime. So if the local guys that pick up garbage couldn't get to those facilities, they were coming here. A lot of them continued because our price was so low and much lower than those facilities. Once we raised our prices, though we did get some indicators from the owners that they were going to find other resources, very few of them could.
Right.
So you saw the peak drop down a little bit, but we are still above our 5-year average.
Right.
So we're seeing a higher generation in revenue, but we're also seeing, more MSW coming through the door. But we're still on the plus side as we treat that material.
Okay. And then give us an update on the Darien Railroad. Where are we on the project there?
You're going to see a press release really soon, I'd say in the next couple days. There'll be some VMS locations on sites for signage to let them know that there are some parking spaces that will be taken away now. We do have ample locations over in Norotan, even with the construction that's going on over there. So if daily payers want to move, they're more than welcome to. But it's going to start in the next 3 weeks. Trailers, you'll see trailers on sites, parking spaces taken. They'll start doing some demolition through the wintertime. They did have a discussion about the holiday schedule. And I think the town with the DOT, we're going to put something out to let people know that it's probably best that they use the Norotan Heights train station during the weekends and holiday nights if they want to go into the city. That would probably be more beneficial that they know that before they get over to Darien and find that there's very few spaces or there's construction activity on half of the platforms on both sides.
Okay, so we should push that out also. So the schedule looks the same? They haven't changed the timeline?
May of 2025 is
Right.
the completion.
And that's still, okay. Any other questions for Ed?
This is just a great report. I mean, every topic we've talked about, from Gorham's Pond Dam to the Hanson Road Bridge, it's got an update, pictures, everything. It's great.
Thank
you. Good job.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, next we have registered voters, Susan Gray and Karen Gately.
Morning, I guess it's just me. I have nothing to add to my report, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Susan, I have one quick one. So it says, if requested, registered voter office will collaborate with Darien's two assisted living residences, Maple and Sellex, to register voters. What does that actually look like?
So I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm in the process of working with them right now. We are going to do mandatory supervised absentee voting with them. We have 3 assisted residence facilities, living facilities in Darien, and one of them had 2 deaths this year, which is Maplewood, so they fall below the statutory requirement. But I've offered to conduct it anyway for them. And we're going to do supervised mandatory absentee voting at Sellex Woods and Atria.
What does that mean, supervised?
So there's a statute that requires that if a facility has more than 20 residents who are electors of the state of Connecticut, we must conduct, if they want to vote by absentee ballot, we must offer to them a mandatory session to help them with their balloting, with their filling out their ballot, and it's supervised. So we'll assist them. And we're required to do that under the statute. There's some facilities don't want us to come in, and registrars in other towns are having a problem with this. Atria doesn't usually want us to come in, but I've spoken to them, and we actually have to come in. It's not a choice, it's a requirement. So we will be conducting the voting.
So you and Kara go there and you help people fill out the ballot?
We're just there. They can have people helping them. We are there, and yes, we can answer questions and we can assist them. And then it's interesting because if the residents are electors of other towns, those ballots can be sent to our town clerk, and she can give us all the ballot packages, and we can bring ballots from other towns for these residents to vote. Sometimes people are convalescing there and they haven't become residents of Darien for voter registration purposes, so we can help those people too. And it's just a way to facilitate absentee ballot voting for people who live in these residences.
So what do you do if somebody asks you, so tell us about the candidates, or who's your favorite candidate? What do you say?
No, we don't get involved in that.
What do you say? What would you say?
Well, I would tell them that these are the offices that are, on the ballot this year, and what these offices comprise, the nature of these offices. But that's really all I would say. I would not get into the candidates.
Okay. There must be a protocol there, yeah. Okay, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Okay, next we have Director of the Senior Center, Beth? Oh, yes, Beth Paris.
Good morning. Sorry for being a little late. Just wanted to add to this report. This month, October, is, you've seen the events for the Alzheimer's Association. So we have had already several programs that have been extremely well attended, and we arranged for the Connecticut Alzheimer's Association to do 2 evening programs that we partnered with at home. The last one we had last Wednesday had over 35 participants. The reason I'm mentioning it is it's the very first time that we've had people that are early not diagnosed come to these events. Also brings to mind that I need to bring another number forward, it'll be in the next report that I do, of people that have been moved in by their families into either the Royal or into condominium complexes or their own homes, that one of the parents has cognitive issues. And it's to help the other parent that's doing the caregiving. I'd say right off the top of my head, sitting there, I was thinking there's been 35 in this last quarter. It presents more of an onus on us as a senior center itself to have even more diversified program that's supporting that, that clientele that's coming in. Also, the monthly caregiver support group has gone from being 7 or 8 people to 14. So I'm going to have to break that down. Most of those are spouses that are caregiving. So there will be more folks that have cognitive issues. I was very interested what the officer was just saying about distracted larcenies. That's another program maybe we should have at the center, seeing that we have more vulnerable people than before. And these are all Darien residents that have come in. So just wanted to say that this is something I think I'm going to start to include, just so that you can see how many people that are coming in that actually need even more support. So, it's a trend that is happening, and it is amazing to see early diagnosed people coming in and actually getting the information for themselves as well. So we'll see what happens. This Wednesday we have another one in the evening, and it's actually good to see, because it's not being seen anymore as a mental health issue. It is actually an organic issue, it's a physical issue, and people are feeling more comfortable seeking out help. The last 5 classes that we have that are going on in the center this month have different modalities of health professionals there. We have a psychosocial gerontologist coming in, speech therapist, nutritionist, so all about healthy aging, how to live healthy and keep that brain going. So that's the biggest mission of the senior center. Keep people connecting, keeping them healthy, and having them have a good quality of life. So it's really underscored by this new kind of trend.
That's what I wanted to ask you is, where's your focus on Alzheimer's? And I'm really, really happy to hear that you have these programs that you're implementing. And I have to think that these caregivers, just having a place where they can go and meet with other caregivers, there has to be a tremendous benefit for that. So thank you for your direction on that.
So, any other questions?
No, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Beth. And next we have our tax collector, Kathy Larkins.
So good morning. Collections are pretty much on target. This month, we issued a $4.4 million sewer service billing. So far this month, we've processed about 1.7 million of that billing. The only other thing I'd like to point out is the commuter parking permits. This year, we saw a pretty drastic reduction in how many outstanding bills and permit renewals we had to hold because of delinquent taxes. It literally was about half in terms of the number of counts, number of permit holders, and the number of tax dollars. So I think people are starting to really get that ordinance and are, taking care of their taxes before their permit renewals are being issued. And other than that, I don't know if you have any questions.
Hey, Kathy, I just was talking to Annie about the parking permits, and she was saying a tremendous number came in physically as opposed to online. So for some reason, people that used to pay online are now sending in a check, which seems counterintuitive to me. How do most people pay their taxes?
I keep seeing a continuing trend of increasing online payments.
They are paying online?
Yes. I can't say what they're doing for their permit renewal. I mean, I do see that a lot of people do come in to deal with Ann directly, but that would be separate from the taxes.
Some of that is the immediacy of giving her the check and getting the physical permit in your hand.
No, they were mailed.
Oh, they were mailed?
Yeah.
Maybe to save I think the percentage fee
There is a fee.
is
it's not
significant.
Not small.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for your hard work.
And thank you, Monica. I'm really happy you're staying on. I'm happy you're all staying on, so thank you so much.
Okay, next we have Krista McNamara, Town Clerk.
Good morning, everyone. In addition to my report, which you have before you, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Beginning with the activities report, you may know, I think it was last quarter, the quarter before, I had modified it. This has been a standard template for probably the last decade, to a fiscal look at the year as opposed to a calendar look. Everything had been reported by quarter on a calendar basis. Now we're doing it on a fiscal basis. But I also this time have broken out the revenue that we send to the state versus the revenue that we keep. That had been commingled in past reports. I think it's clearer now to show it to you by what we're sending up to Hartford. As you'll see, revenue is down about 9%. I can't really speak to why, but I wanted to highlight that. Staying on the activities report, moving down to births recorded, I'm happy to report the first baby girl was born in Darien in the end of August. It's very exciting. This was not a hospital birth, this was actually a Darien birth. So I feel like an honorary godmother, and David is the honorary godfather.
Let's keep doing that, right?
Very, very exciting. Got a picture of the baby girl. Mom and baby are healthy and happy. It was a planned home birth.
Just to be clear, not mine.
Not parents. Staying on the activities report, moving into the current fiscal quarter. Picking up on Kathy's comment as tax collector, we received 92 sewer liens in the month of October, 4 of which had shown releases when I checked it just the other day. So we saw a fair amount of those. Those get filed, as I understand, if there is outstanding balance of at least $2. Picking up a little bit from on the election side, there's a lot of news these days about the Democratic primary held up in Bridgeport and the topic of absentee ballots. I just wanted to assure you all and the public listening that one of the concerns in the situation in Bridgeport was how the town clerk received and processed these absentee ballots. Please know and rest assured that all ballots that come into Darien are stamped with my signature or signed physically by a member of my staff. In Bridgeport, they were using a stamp with the word town clerk, and the courts and the attorneys are challenging whether those are legitimate because there is no signature. So we are using a signature, whether it is a stamped signature or a physical signature. So we will not have that problem. And last but not least, an update for the ballot for the November election. There was a plug for the RTM. For anyone watching this or anyone here in the audience of Darien residents, we expect one vacancy in District 1 on November 8th, right after the election. But going into the election, there will be one opening in District 2, 2 openings in District 3, 2 openings in District 5, District 4 has a full ballot, and District 6 is a contested election with 11 people running for 9 seats. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Krista, who's our public information officer?
Marley?
It is, okay. I didn't know if that was
Yeah,
her,
Marley.
her actual title. And on
That's
those,
the title I
It's not her title.
but if it's a different title on
yeah, media.
media, oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
And on the liquor fee, that's an annual fee, right?
Correct.
And we retain 100% of that.
100% of the $20, correct.
Okay.
We had an issue where many of the businesses here in town, they'll apply to the state, hopefully most of them apply to the state, so they do have their liquor license, but it clearly states on this document that it must be stamped with the town clerk and the $20 fee. They don't seem to get that next step. So with this new system with the fire marshal, it's been wonderful to work with, that'll give the vendor the ability to pay for that while they're going through their shopping cart, and then they can just come and stamp it.
Right.
So we haven't, gone live with this, but it's a way, I know that was one of your objectives, to maximize efficiencies in the permitting process. So I'm helping to pick up on that.
Especially that where you get the license from the state. I can see where there's like a disconnect.
No, very much so. I do recognize that. That's why we just started to call up some of these vendors whom we knew we didn't have permits from. And when you call up to say, hi, I'm calling from the town of Darien regarding your liquor license, 99% of them respond immediately. So we have gotten very good response.
Well, you do a good job on, I'm sure your response on a lot of things is pretty high. Thanks, Krista. Any other questions for Krista? No. Okay, thanks,
Great,
Krista.
thanks so much.
And our town treasurer is, we have her written report. She is not here today. She's recovering from surgery. And we have Alicia Sillers, our Director of Youth Commission, as our last person.
Good morning. I neglected to include that as a youth director, I serve on the Depot Advisory Council, and we have worked closely in supporting each other's youth programming. And one such example is prior to their kicking off their newly formed and developed clubs, which started in October, the Youth Commission sponsored an afternoon. One of the clubs is called The Challenge, and it's a mental and emotional and physical challenge club. So we sponsored an afternoon event inviting and including all club members. We did that on September 27th, and it was a roaring success. And we look forward to continuing to support each other's youth programming for the rest of the year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Alicia, I just have one question. On the summer camp, great success there. And it's wonderful we offer this for our little people. Why do you have 2 sessions when it doesn't seem like there's any real drop-off?
We have 3 sessions.
Oh, you have 3.
First session was in last fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
We operate a 6-week program. Prior to COVID, it was 2 3-week sessions. Then during Camp COVID, we ran 4 1-week sessions, and we felt as though it gave people the flexibility to enroll, a la carte, if you will. And so post-COVID, we've done 3 2-week sessions.
That probably helps you when it comes to staffing.
And
too,
when you
right?
look at the numbers, that doesn't mean that that's consistent with the same people registering. Because we offer, it's a matrix. We offer session 1, session 2, session 3, session 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 3. I mean, there are 6 weeks. There are 7 options for each program. So it gives people more flexibility.
Right. More work for you, but...
Yep, but that's all right.
Yeah.
We've got great staff down there supporting it.
Any other questions for Alicia?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the director's head meeting, so, do I need a motion to adjourn? Nope. No, okay, it's adjourned.
I have to grab the 10, 20, 20, and you can leave around 10, 10, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm just going to I'm sorry.
I'll be quick.
Well, I don't want to cut off Ed.
Okay?
Take care.
$10.50? Okay, no. Okay.
Efficient.
Hey, Ed? Ed? We have time constraints, so we're going to move it.
What's that?
We have a time constraint, so we're going to move it along.
Okay.
That's for me.
A second?
Yep. Okay, while Ed is setting up, I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order on October 17th at 9:50. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item on the agenda is a presentation of the results of the Grove Street flooding study. And we have Director of Public Works Ed Gentile here who's going to explain the results of the study.
Sorry, Ed, I didn't know you needed the easel.
Thank you very much. Ed Gentile, Director of Public Works for the town of Darien. Okay, this morning we're going to just go over, I say briefly, but it's probably about 10, 15 minutes, just what the Grove Street and Tilly Pond study actually did for us, what it showed us, and where we'd like to go to next, if you will. And I'll move it along. I understand there's some time issues. So understanding that the original study was completed this year in April, it was a public-private partnership. I think you all are aware of that. We have some of the stakeholders here in the audience today with us. The study detailed increasing precipitation depth and frequencies, which means the storms are becoming more intense, right? They're not slowing down. Climate change, we all heard it already. Current findings indicate the multiple sections upstream of the Boston Post Road as well as under the railroad tracks are undersized. There's multiple choke points along this system with inconsistent pipe sizes. So just so you know, this is Tilly Pond up top here. The piping system does go underneath the railroad down through in between the two buildings, the Glassmeyer buildings, if you will, under the fountain. And then down Brook Street as it crosses Grove, and then behind Baywater property, new piping system, and then out to Goodwives River, which is alongside the Old Kings Highway South roadway and I-95. Okay, that's the system we're looking at. It currently overtops in a 2-year storm in certain areas. That certain area is down here in the Grove Street area. The piping system is undersized. As you go further along, it actually backs up in other locations too, as you look at a 10 and a 25-year storm event. Our standard in town is a 25-year storm event and 50 for low-lying areas. Studied, did show some opportunities for improvements so that we could upgrade the system and promote some resiliency for downtown. I think the idea here is to look at some of the larger storms and see if we could minimize the impact of flooding. You're never going to eliminate flooding, but you can possibly direct it or change it or minimize it, if you will. And I think that's the idea here as we go through these studies, is to pick and choose from a menu what's going to be best for the town looking into the future. So there were multiple alternatives shown by our consultant and presented at the meeting in September of this year. And I put this list, this was in the study itself. It shows that we went through 8 different alternatives, I'm sorry. And over here on the left side, it would show you the depth of flooding as you implemented each alternative. And the first one is existing conditions, and we have 1.5 feet of water in the Grove Street Brook Street area, and at the West Avenue lot area, it's 2 feet deep. That's existing conditions for a 50-year storm. And as we implement each one of these changes, and it could be as simple as changing one pipe in one location, but this chart shows you the impacts as it goes across. When we were focusing on the Grove Street, Brook Street area, you could see we're making improvements in depth of flooding, but we weren't doing so in the West Avenue area. So obviously there's 2 things that need to be considered here. As we work our way down to alternative 8 seem to address flooding at both locations. I'll show you a map in a second, but you'll see that in the Brook and Grove Street area, there's 0 flooding, while over in West Avenue area, the parking lot, there's 3 inches. That's acceptable flooding for a 50-year storm. And I'll say this because we did run a model for Saltbox. We ran a 100-year flood through a 50-year design. Basically, we put more water in than it's designed for to see what would happen. These improvements will show improvements for a 100-year storm also. But we didn't quantify it here, but I can tell you it'll be better than it is now. Much better than it is now with these improvements. So we did select this alternative. Again, it's in the report, but I wanted to show it, use it as an example to show you where we're making changes. And one of the big changes for this is to rerun a pipe underneath the railroad and then down Day Street and across the Center Street North parking lot and out to Old Kings Highway South and put it in a secondary discharge, leaving the existing system through the Bay Water property, Brook Street, and having that functional also. So you have dual systems now. And that's what you needed to correct this flooding. So we went from an existing of, it says 27 inches, but for a 50-year storm design, we're down to 3.5 inches. Again, almost 1.5 feet. We're down to 0 in Brook Street and Grove. Also, as part of our meeting, initial meeting after the study was done with some of the stakeholders, they asked about Tilly Pond, and if there's anything that we can do to make that pond, let's say a detention basin, maybe attenuate some of the floodwaters if we could. And what our consultant came up with was, first of all, the thought that dredging creates more storage below the outlet. That's incorrect. What it does is create dead storage. It doesn't actually help you with flooding. So understand that the water never gets out. You dredge down, the groundwater comes up to the outlet and sits there. It either sits there in the mud and silt, or it sits there in nice clean water, but it sits there. It's called dead storage for a reason. It does not help us in any way, shape, or form with flooding. So what you would need to help attenuate this 50-year storm event and minimize the pipe sizes through here, though you'd still need to do some of this, maybe not all of it. And I think the secondary crossing would be eliminated, would be to raise the berm around Tilly Pond almost 6 feet. And if you can imagine a 6-foot high berm around that whole pond and what it would do to the trees and the nature of that pond, I don't think anyone actually believes that's a feasible idea. Also, after you do that, it would be treated as a dam, which means all of the trees within 50 feet or 25 feet each side of that dam would have to be removed. They don't allow for vegetation of that size to be within a dam. It compromises the structural integrity. So, with that said, there's one more critical part of this, of any study and any process of doing a design. First it's schedule, and then it's permitting, and we put the two together, all right? This, again, is in the study. It does show that it could go out to almost 42 months. I will tell you that there is some flexibility within the permitting and the easement area, but in speaking to our consultant, we thought it would be beneficial to kind of stretch that out a little bit, give us a little bit of leeway. Don't try to, to make it so tight that it's not realistic, that we can't hit those numbers. But the permitting that's going to be required is definitely the Metro North to go underneath that railroad tracks. It's not like we haven't obtained that permit before. We did it, the town of Darien did it. Unfortunately, I was not here to see that happen, but in 2012, they put a design at Norotan Heights to go underneath the railroad tracks there. They went through the permit process. They did get it approved, so it can be done. It just takes a longer period of time than normal. You also need a CONDOT permit or a Connecticut DOT permit to cross the post road. And we'd absolutely need an EPC permit from our own local regulatory body to discharge into the Goodwise River. So as you can see, the two big pieces here are permitting and easement, semi-final and final design. As you see, semi-final design gets you to a certain point, and then you have to start doing your permitting. Okay, to say that you can stop and not do permitting and hold back, then you have a semi-final design that's not worth very much. It doesn't give you anything. It doesn't give you a proper schedule. It doesn't give you a proper estimate. You're still waiting on the permitting process. What you get out of the permitting process are any special conditions that they're going to require you to do with regards to your design. Whether it be larger pipes, any type of infiltration if they even ask for it. I don't think they will for this type of project. Any other items that you would have to incorporate into your design to get you to final design. That's where you want to be. You want to go through the permit process. You want to go through the easement process. You want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row when you throw out this final design. And with the final design, you get your opinion of probable cost. That is what you take to the governing bodies when you start looking for funds to do construction. So, I stole this quote from I borrowed it. If constructed, the proposed improvements will never forever solve flooding issues. Residents have experienced, but improvements will reduce the frequency, severity, and duration of flooding. I think it's a good statement, and we have to remember that. They're not going to go away, but we can start addressing some of them, and we can build in some safety factors too, as we do it. That's all I have for you. Any questions?
Yeah, Ed, so I think the community, I think just addressing again the fact that we did these 3 studies, that after these storms, we identified areas, and those are the areas we're focusing on, and there isn't anything else on the horizon at this time. Not to say that obviously other areas won't be impacted in the future, but this is the conclusion of that first stage of looking at everything, correct?
That's correct.
So we have the salt box, we weren't really able to address anything on Bailey, and we're looking to go forward on design on this.
That's correct. The smaller projects, we've already, out of the 3 that I've identified, we've completed 2 of them already. They're drainage improvement projects, one on Long Neck Point, the other on Hanson Road. Those have been completed now, so we're wrapping up, if you want to call it Elsa and Ida.
Right.
Storm identifications. And understand that there'll be other storms that come through here, and they'll maybe identify other areas. Kind of like we weren't looking at salt box until this storm came.
Right.
Another storm may focus our study on another area.
So I particularly appreciate addressing downtown flooding. I think that impacts everyone, and I appreciate the offer of financial support from some of our business people. Do we have your assurance that you will explore every opportunity for any kind of grant, any type of funding for these projects?
We're working on that right now.
Perfect.
For Saltbox, and once I get this thing off the ground, we'll address it the same way. There's resiliency funding. We have to be cognizant of there's funding that's out there, but you only get it after a major storm in the declaration.
Right.
So I don't think any of us was wishing for that part, so I am looking at some other opportunities for and we're using one of our consultants to start looking at that also.
Right. I think going through Westcott too, through Dewberry Resource there, maybe that's another option.
That's the one we're using right now.
That's who you're going through? Okay. All right, well, I appreciate all the work on this, and I'm looking forward to the design phase. Any questions for Ed?
Thank you for all your work.
Yeah, it's great, Ed.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is...
One comment?
Sure.
Should I get up here?
Yes.
So I'm Shed Glassmeyer, representing Grove Street Plaza. Do I need to give anything? No. Great.
You're good.
So I wasn't prepared to make this comment, but I guess the one point I wanted to make to you all is that Ed's done a great job with all this, and the consultant has as well. And just understand that what they're trying to solve is for the 50-year storm. 2 years ago, we had a 250-year storm. Right, Ed? Is it 250-year storm?
No, it was 100 and 500.
Or is it 100 and 500? But anyway, I just want to make that point, that here we are, we're setting a lower bar of trying to, minimize flooding for a 50-year storm, when just 2 years ago we had storms beyond the 50-year storm. And I just think it's really important that everyone understands that. And the fact that just this year we had that storm in West Point, where it was a very similar storm. It's just a matter of time till we have another storm. It just seems like they're happening even more frequently than the names of the storms would dictate, the 100-year storm or the 250-year storm. It's just...
And I appreciate where you're coming from. I do think that, as Ed said, we push the 100-year information through on this to make sure, to at least address that. But it is extraordinarily expensive to model for 100-year, let alone a 500-year. So,
and I'm not even pushing for that.
Okay.
My point is that the fact that we've had such storms just means that the way they name these storms is just meaningless now with how frequent they're occurring, I guess. To think that they're 250-year storms and a 100-year storm or whatever it was in one summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you so much. And, if we can get something for a 50-year storm, that'd be amazing.
Okay. Okay, all good? Okay, thanks, Ed. Next item on the agenda is first Selectmen's report. I want to first say, while Ed is still here, that trees are important. I'm really happy to say that Park and Rec is planting another 15 bayberry bushes and 15 trees over at Highland. And I want to sincerely thank Craig Bordier from DOT, but I really want to thank Ed Gentile for all of the work, actually all the work that he and actually Wayne Fox did for Little Brook. And I'm happy to say that we will be planting 76 trees over at, I don't know why I'm choking up on this, it's my last meeting. But we will be planting 76 trees over at Norotan Heights. And Public Works does big things, right? They work on flooding, they work on sewer, but we also have somebody that's really dedicated to working for our residents. And that's it. So thank you for all your work on that. Okay, moving on. Something that is serious, and I think Marley's going to help us on this, is that I want to make sure residents know that I-95 will be closed. The northbound will be closed on this weekend, actually. And on Friday, November 3rd, the southbound I-95 lane will be closed. So we're going to put this on our website, but for the exact hours.
The closures are in Norwalk or Westport?
They're in Westport, yeah. So, and I also, so we will put that on our website, and Marley will push that out. And I think Tracy Mars also had this on her information. On Saturday, October 7th, I, along with our other Board of Selectmen members, attended the Oxbridge Elementary School ribbon cutting. And I want to give my sincere appreciation to the building committee, Diane Boston, Sean Brown, Dan Baumgartner, co-chair, Duke Deneen, Randy Giraldo, co-chair Kip Coons, Katie Lublin, Marcy Minnick, Nick Rango, and Rusty Schreiner. So, you know, I think that every child that goes to that school is really excited to go there. And I want to thank the building committee. And if you like the school, can I suggest that you drop a note to one of these people that's on the building committee? We have lots of people like Dan Baumgartner, like Marcy, like Katie Lublin, that are doing kind of double work for our community, right? This is all volunteer work. This particular building committee was busy for 5 years. We have Sarah over here who's working on the HHR committee. So these are just people volunteering. So if you see something and you like it, I suggest you send them a note. Great Island Bus Tour, we are back on schedule. We have a lock on the weather. It is not going to rain. We are doing it on October 28th, and we have a lot of people that are volunteering to help us out. It's a 1-hour bus tour. It has sold out, and I'm hoping that we're able to do something like that again in the future. That's my first Selectmen report. I'm just going to say really briefly that it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and I'm excited to be staying on the board. It has been an absolute honor to serve our community, and I guarantee you your next first Selectman won't be this choked up. And I can't say enough about our town staff. That's my report. Okay.
Just briefly, we had the go live right before the last Board of Select meeting. Things have been going pretty smoothly, and with both the website and the C-Click Fix. So, and I see residents getting into using the C-Click Fix, which I think is really terrific. The fact that it's an app on your phone, I think, helps a lot. And as you can see, if you came through the first floor, we're doing the work on the first floor. That was done on the second floor. So a couple months by Thanksgiving, right? It should be done, and thank you to Public Works for that. And that's it.
That's it? No public comment?
We had it already.
That was it, okay. Mike?
Oh.
Yes, the Blight Review Board met on October 11th, and we will next meet on November 8th. We had all members present on October 11th. We reviewed 18 properties that are on the list at various stages. I'm happy to report that we voted to remove 4 of the properties because of conditions resolved. We have invited 4 other property owners to our December meeting. There wasn't enough time to notice them for our November meeting. So for our December meeting, as a prelude to coming in and speaking to us about what's going on with their properties, and if they do not come and we don't resolve whatever their situation is, they will be added to the list of properties that are under fines. And we continue to invite people to come in and talk to us where the situation dictates. We move to have liens extended. You basically go 6 months, and then if the fines are accumulating, you submit a new lien so we can keep those records accurate. We have not yet had a commercial property on the blight list, and we keep moving forward.
You know, a committee that we need to have people work on, but not one of our more fun committees, so I really appreciate your efforts there.
Well, thanks. And, you know, I'd be remiss if I, didn't add, it's been a pleasure to serve with you in the first Selectman role, and look forward to continuing to work with you in the other chair. When I was on the Board of Education, I had a habit of, when my colleagues, after I left that board, were having their last meetings, to go to their last meetings. I expect I'll go see, Duke in a couple of weeks, but I'm glad that, we'll still all be here and working.
Thanks, Mike. Pleasure working with you. So Sarah had another meeting. John?
So the ARPA committee met yesterday, and we have moved around some of the funding for that. Kate has got that as a later agenda item, and we'll go through that. And Great Island Committee is meeting tomorrow night, so we've got lots on that agenda. It'll be very interesting. Please tune in. I will echo Mike's comments about your tenure as first selectman. It has been extraordinarily, not just in your accomplishments, but in how you've managed the office and how you grew into it. And I have enormous shoes to fill, so thank you.
Thanks, John. Marcy?
No updates. We have not met Oxford Building Committee. Obviously, we had the grand opening last weekend, and it was absolutely fabulous. A lot of interest. Kids are really happy. Staff is really happy. We put the time capsule together, so that's kind of interesting to see how that will look in 20 years as the kids put together, ideas and memories of what life is like today. And the Mental Health Task Force is meeting again next week, so we'll have an update on that.
Do we have an idea of when they're winding down, actually closing it
So
out?
I have a meeting with them next week, Oxford Building Committee, and I think that will be the time that we have a timeline. Usually it's like 6 months post getting everybody in, so I'm not looking until probably May or so before that committee will be dissolved.
Okay. All right, then we will officially turn it over.
Right.
Okay. Ed, you can go. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and take action on a request to recommend approval of a contract with the AFSCME local union, the Public Works Employees Union. Kate?
So I previously sent a memo to all of you. I don't know if anybody has any questions on the highlights of the contract, or I think it was a good process. It was, I think the contract provides some benefits to the employees, and it provides some benefits to the town. We didn't get everything we wanted, but neither did they. So all in all, I think it's a good result, fair result.
Right.
Can you remind us of the term of that contract? When
4 years.
And then it starts officially when, or is it?
It starts officially, it's retroactive to July 1st of this year.
July 1st, okay.
And one of the reasons in our looking at the timing, trying to stagger contracts.
Yeah, that was my other question. What's the next one up for consideration?
The town hall union contract expires in June of 2024. So that'll be my last one. But we wanted we were trying to have it so that they continue to be staggered, that we don't have multiple contracts under negotiation at any one time.
Got it.
Well, Kate, thank you for all of your negotiating skills on all of these contracts.
It was a good team. It was a very good team. Without Susan and Jen and John Wolcott's input, it wouldn't be as smooth. So.
Right. Appreciate your leadership on that. Okay, any other questions? No. Okay, may I have a motion to recommend approval of a contract with the local 1303-292 Public Works Employees Union? John moves, Mike seconds. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next item is to discuss and take action on a request to transfer $155,778 to various salary accounts. Kate?
This is our annual transfer. This is if you recall, during the budget process, we discuss an amount to be held over for non-represented transfers. And then this year we had, this is partly the results of the evaluations, but also the results of the compensation study that was done.
Right.
So these are the transfers necessary to fund the various increases that were approved.
How much is left over in these contingency accounts once that transfer goes through?
Shoot, off the top of my head, I don't know that answer. I can go back and look. Jen had given me that.
But it says there may be mid-year transfers, so it's okay that there's some funding in that.
Yes, there is funding. There is funding left. Yes,
not an urgent question.
We do anticipate a smaller scale compensation review of our part-time employees. So there is some funding left for that.
Any other questions? No? Okay, may I have a motion to approve a transfer of $155,778 to various salary accounts? John moves, Marcy seconds. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next is discuss and take action on a request to approve transfers within the ARPA fund. Kate?
Right, so as John mentioned, the ARPA committee met yesterday and discussed these 5 proposed transfers. The largest one is $580,000 for Phase 2 of an I&I study sewer program. And that has been largely funded through bonding. But the cost estimate is higher than what we had originally appropriated, so we're seeking an additional $580,000 for that study. Do you want me to do each one of them at a time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, do them all. Yeah.
Okay. So then, the next largest one is the street sweeper, which had been requested in fiscal '24 budget, but you all cut it out in interest of saving tax dollars last year. We were able to keep the one we had going, but considering that we have the ARPA funding available, I think it would be appropriate to purchase it and basically, again, save money in the next year's budget. The other 3 are smaller. They're all Parks and Rec related. One is a 500-gallon water tank. As you noted when Pam was speaking about the places that they have to provide watering where we don't have irrigation. The current water tank we have is very small. It's very time consuming to fill it, go out there, come back, refill it, and go out there. So they've asked for a larger tank. Brush cutter for $8,000 will help tremendously with their work on removing invasives in the parks. It's basically a time-saving tool so that it will allow them to do their work quicker and move on to other things. Last is several storage trailers that will allow them to load their equipment up for easy transport to facilities, but one of the highlights is they want to be able to move it out of the garage very quickly. We've had issues in the past couple of years with flooding in the lower bays of the Public Works garage and having to rush to get equipment out there, and we've actually lost a number of pieces of equipment. This would allow that stuff to be moved quickly and save time and save equipment.
So you're talking like a trailer that goes on the back of a vehicle?
Nope, talking about a closed-in trailer that would attach to a pickup truck.
That's what I mean, it
Yeah.
goes on the back of a truck.
Yeah, but it's not, but the truck,
would
yeah, the truck would take it away, but
Got
it's
it. Yep.
not, I thought at first that it was like an open trailer. It's not,
Okay.
they're actually enclosed.
And the equipment would be stored there generally,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Hey, Ed, I have a couple of questions. Can you come up? So, on the street sweeper, would that be an item that you were going to bring forward again this year?
Yes.
It is, okay. Okay. I saw it, it looked great.
Looks pretty on the outside.
Oh.
It's the wear and tear underneath. The brooms we replace on a regular basis, but the mechanisms underneath, we just did a hydraulic pump relocation or replacement on that. You had to take actually the whole thing apart to get to it. So last year it was down for almost 2.5 months to do that.
Right.
So what we're seeing right now is an opportunity, now that we've fixed it and everything's running well, to replace it and at least get some value out of it too when we do put it up for auction.
Right, that was my next question. So, what are the prospects for the sale of that somewhere else?
You want to know how much we're going to get it for?
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't even venture a guess to that just yet. We haven't looked at other items that are out there for sale or other items that may be on the auction list themselves. But the good part about this auction is you don't have to put everything up, right? You can put what you want, and if there's something that's comparable, you wait. You don't make it a competition. You put it by itself because you get a higher price, more people looking at it. That's been our, that's what we've been finding out as we go through this process.
I appreciate that. dedication to detail and strategy on that. I think that's great, and I'm all about scrap value, so you keep going on that. So listen, talk to us about the I&I, and that's a pretty big number.
It is. It's actually, we call it part of the I&I program that we're doing. It's actually the recommended construction that the I&I study came up with. So
Okay.
we broke it into 3 phases, basically. Old Kings Highway South was our first phase because of the deterioration of the piping. Now we're into let's fix the pipes that are leaking, the manholes that are leaking, that are allowing groundwater and flow into our system. This is the first phase. It's $1.6 million. So what happened is my bonding for 2.3, if you add the phases and the studies together, I'm over that right now. This will actually help me supplement it and still go back. I need to go back for additional bonding too, but this will actually supplement this project, almost a third of it. So 1.6, we're looking at 600,000.
Okay. Any other questions for Ed?
So these are, just to be clear, these are I&I studies. These don't fix anything. This really gives you a chance to assess the problem and develop a general plan as what you want to address, correct?
The original I&I study / SSES program was to identify. We've done that. That was almost $700,000, and we got $350,000 back from the state.
Right.
Now what you do is in that report, it goes, okay, this is where you have to look at pipelining, epoxy manhole cover, replacing the covers with watertight manholes because you're in a flood hazard zone. So when it floods, the water goes through the manhole's tops and into your system. This is all that study did, was direct us now where to spend our big dollars on construction and rehab. And that's what we're in. We're into phase 2 right now.
Which is the actual
work being done.
The actual work.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. How many phases?
3.
Okay, good.
And then we start the second phase of the I&I SSES on another section of town.
Right, okay. Okay, you know, Kate, let me ask the board, do you want to vote on all of these items individually? Great, thanks, Ed. Or do you want?
I'm okay with all of them, unless
I'm okay
anybody
with
has a protest. We can just do them all at once.
Okay, okay. So may I have a motion to approve the transfers within the ARPA fund? Mike moves, John seconds, unanimous, terrific. Next item on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes of the October 2nd meeting. It was a regular meeting. Any edits, deletions?
No.
Corrections? Nope, seeing none. Mike moves, John seconds, they're approved. Okay. Any items for future agendas?
Yeah, just the pickleball discussion for Parks and Rec, to get that on the agenda.
Yeah, do you want, I mean, think that what you're talking about is really the commission level.
Right.
So.
Which is okay.
Do you want us to
Yeah.
invite the commission?
I try to go to the commission meeting, or actually have somebody from the commission, if it's appropriate, to have them brief us on that. It's just you get so many calls about this, maybe we just need to direct them to that commission, but we ought to have a broader and more public discussion about that.
Yeah, I think it would help, if we invite the chair or any member of the commission to come and speak to us, and so they can also know that there are, areas of the town that are interested in the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all appointed, folks. It's questions that the ones who are up for appointment might get anyway in their interview process, so best to have them come and to speak to us.
And also gives a public forum for them to discuss the issues that they have considered when making some of the decisions.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, seeing none. May I have a motion to adjourn? Marcy moves. John seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Thank you.